All right, welcome back to Trial and Error. This is kind of a mini episode. We have some other stuff going on this week, and so this is just kind of more or less me and Fearless checking in. The format of the show that we were doing with Fearlessly Unstuck was we'd have one regimented kind of episode that was a little bit more scripted and had more of an outline, and the other one was more of a free form conversation. So this is the free form conversation.
Yeah.
Just checking in and whatnot and getting back on the content wheel. That's the hardest part when creating and trying to build out a platform is getting on that wheel so that you can create content consistently and making it a habitual thing. So I'll get into what I've got going on. Fearless, what you got going on?
Basically, just kind of building out a framework for my coaching practice, man. For the most part, and then I mean, obviously, kind of doing what we're doing here. I've been extremely under the weather, and whether people can believe it or not, I actually lost my voice for a few days, which I'm telling you, I think the people around me were extremely happy that happened because man, that just meant that I couldn't say nothing. I didn't have anything to talk about. Well, I had a lot to talk about. Nobody could hear me,
Right.
so I had to whisper all the time. It sucked, but during that, again, being a life coach or whatever, I internalized a lot of things or whatever. So one of the things that I started to discover is that it felt good not to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started thinking about the things that we talk about that are worthless to even be discussing most of the time. So why not just keep your mouth shut? So I literally kind of reveled in just not being able to talk
Right.
for a few days and being very choosy with what came out of my mouth. You know, and again, I think that you can use that for life in general with whereas just keeping your mouth shut unless you have something to discuss. Because if you don't, like don't nobody really want to hear it anyway.
Right.
Whether good, bad, or indifferent, everybody's going through something, and probably nobody wants to hear about what you got going on anyway. For the most part, especially if it's negative. So, but we are trial and error. So one of the things that I did in my own personal life, like I said before, kind of getting my practice going, is that I've been doing a lot of. I've been working with people or whatever, but a lot of what I've done and have been doing has been through a word of mouth. For the most part, and I think that you and I have talked about that before. I just had a lunch and learn lunch date thing with our friend Diane over at Bellevue Chamber, which I love Diane. What's up?
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things that we had talked about was like how do you get clients? And I said honestly I haven't really been online like that. A lot of the people that I get are through word of mouth. Somebody heard about me here, somebody saw me there, or something like that. And so that's where I get a lot of my clientele from. It's just people just calling me up just out of nowhere. And that's cool and all, but I would like to kind of maybe make it a little bit more streamlined, if you will.
Right.
So that's really what I've been kind of working on lately is that aspect. And I haven't been on Facebook in forever. So again, I think that us, doing our content, it holds me accountable in general. That's really what it does. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm lazy as shit. So people coming to me, wonderful. Yeah, we can do whatever we need to do. But as far as me putting myself out there and this that, and the other, I've kind of been MIA on that. So I'm gonna switch all that up. Hence, that's why you and I are doing what we're doing now. But so creating content, I have nothing but content to talk about, nothing but or whatever. So like doing this with you is really fun. I even have a little thing that I've been doing with Miss Anya or whatever on the side and stuff. This is just to kind of keep those chops going, hit the record button, all that stuff, whatever. So like, yeah, man, I think that we'll have some fun doing this. So go ahead. What's
So
up with you, bro?
so one thing I wanted to kind of pivot back to is you talked about how kind of you uh, um not having a voice kind of enforced silence on you. And so I was thinking about when I was managing family support workers, case
Mm,
managers, you know, people who work in group homes and all the other stuff. One of the things I used to talk to my staff about a lot, specifically was family support workers, was um, cultivating the pause. It
okay.
was I called it cultivating the pause. Um, and what cultivating the pause means is sometimes, and there's a couple of different ways I applied it. The main way I applied it was sometimes you encounter something that happens, and there's a benefit in cultivating the pause between an event happening and you feeling a certain way about what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows you to analyze and measure what your approach is.
Okay.
And so I used it in the context with my family support workers because a lot of times in the initial interview, it was really revealing, and it talked about a lot of really painful things for family members or traumatic stuff. And one of my workers kind of struggled with the facial expressions, and where the family would say something, you could read her response on her face, and then the family felt like they were being judged, and instantly the walls go up. And
Mm,
so it was a practice thing of cultivating the pause. They tell you something horrific. You have the ability, you have the option, you have the power to say, okay, this horrific thing, I'm going to pause and really try to determine how I feel about this without latching onto a specific feeling so it's not showing on my face. That's one.
mm-hmm.
The other way I used it was, um, you know, cultivating the pause in conversation. Because a lot of times when you're doing those kind of interviews and talking, um, and I'm guilty of it too, where silence is awkward,
Mm,
and you tend to, when you're uncomfortable in a situation, you typically try to fill the dead air with words. Sometimes you just stay in the pause, and so you say something meaningful or impactful, or they say something that you need to think about, and you allow the silence to occur, and you don't
mm,
speak until you actually have something to add to it, or a follow-up question, or even waiting for the answer. Because sometimes you'll ask, and this just comes from the assessment interviews with the families, you ask that question and there's a pause, and instantly I had a worker that would just start talking when the pause happened, and the
mm,
family never got a chance to really answer honestly. So you cultivate the pause between you asking the question, and you kind of lean into the awkwardness of the quiet.
mm. I
That's
like
where
that.
that's where my mind went with that.
No, I
And
like that.
so
That's some good stuff. That's
and
some good stuff.
that's where I went with that, because that's what I was thinking when you were talking about having to enforce quiet. What I've been up to is, yesterday I was posting. I help distribute and market a podcast for a friend and a client, and so I was working on that, and we're trying something new, and I was taking over aspect of the distribution, and I botched a couple of things on it. And so, the struggle yesterday was not internalize and screw up, understand that it is trial and error, and having the conversation to say, "Hey, man, sorry for the friction that we created with trying to launch this thing." And he's like, "Ah, that's cool," and figuring out how to rebound from that. And in the past, that would have absolutely wrecked my day, um, because I had to let go of the ego that comes with being a perfectionist. I had to let go
Mm-hmm.
of that stuff. and understand that no deployment is perfect, and sometimes the feedback is necessary to help you try again and do it better. So that's what yesterday was. It got end up getting consumed because I was really trying to um, do a new process and mix and match different processes that I've tried before, and it wasn't successful the first deployment, and so it's giving myself an opportunity to do it again.
Right. No, I get that. So, and I started writing some of this stuff down. So the first thing in what we're doing, and I think the reason why I appreciate it so much is because it really focuses on the trial and error, which is you don't know if this is going to work or not. You
Right.
have no idea, right? So I think that that's number one, is that you have to at least acknowledge that, hey, this is a trial and error type of thing, right? The second thing is that in that trial and error, that you're taking accountability
Hmm.
for whatever happens. You don't know what's going to happen, but you are solely responsible for what's about to happen. The
Right.
third thing is that you learn from it, whatever happens. And if it's not something that's on a positive note, cool, that's what's up. But you still apologized for it. Like, hey, man, this didn't work out so well. Sorry about that. And then learn what you need to learn or relearn what you need to learn and then get back to work.
Hmm.
It's not a thing of sulking over it. I mean, you messed up. Cool, my fault. Let me get back in here and make this work.
Right.
Right. And the thing that I love about what we're doing right now is that it's all about literally trial and error. I
Hmm.
mean, figuring it out. When I was assisting with building the store or whatever, my partner would ask me like how did you figure all this stuff out? I'm like, dude, I like to fail fast. I don't like
Hmm.
to mess around with shit. I like to get in, mess up as many times as possible, especially early on, because if I messed up and I mess up a lot, then that means that whoever comes in after me, I can help them to avoid the same mistakes that I made because I've already made them.
Right.
So he's like, so you mess up on purpose? I'm like, yes, sometimes yes. Like I'll just be messing around with buttons just to see what happens.
Right.
Like, all right, well, yeah, you don't want to do this during that because this is what will happen. You don't want to do this over here with this because this is what will happen. Take notes, write everything down until you get it. And again, you're not going to get it in your first revolution. It might take you, like I was telling Diane yesterday, there was a book called I think How to Learn Anything in like 120 hours or something like that. It's somewhere around there.
Hmm.
But it was an amazing book that really broke down the learning curve of which we have on certain things. And
Right.
one of the things that he was saying was that whenever you learn something, you don't know anything. So then why do we consistently keep sitting there thinking that you have to be some type of what is that word when you're a savant
Savant. Yeah.
at something? Like, no, like you're not going to know that at first. So what he did was he said that, matter of fact, I don't think it was 120 hours. I think it may have been like, I'll get the name of the book or whatever when you start doing your thing. But I think his name is Josh Kaufman or something like that.
I've
If
read
you
his
want
stuff
to,
before. I've read
did
Josh
you?
Kaufman's stuff before. He did
Okay,
the
so you know
personal.
what?
He
Say
did the
what?
personal. He did a book called The Personal MBA, where it was basically started out his reading list of business books, and
Okay,
he consolidated it all down and said you can get an MBA level education by going through this reading list of books and saving
right.
your time and money. And then he
Mhm.
he, he kind of flipped that and made a book out of all. He extracted all the best information and made a book, and it's called The Personal MBA. It's the first business book I've ever read, and it's probably the most impactful one because it gives you the equations, it gives you all of this other stuff to determine your cash flow and how much you're paying on marketing and all that stuff. So yeah,
Oh, really?
yep,
Is that okay? So I don't. Yeah, I'm not seeing that he has any other books. But okay, so the book that I was talking about, it's called "The First 20 Hours: How to Learn Anything Fast."
got it.
So it's not 120 hours. It's 20 hours,
Yep,
right? And I'm about to go off on this tangent for a minute.
Okay.
So here's the thing. There's this other book that I have called Dumbing Down America. And I think it was created by this teacher. And he said, on average, did you know that it takes the average student 100 hours to learn reading, writing, and arithmetic? It only takes them about 100 hours. 100. And that is to become proficient enough to comprehend what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
100, my friend. 100 hours. So I was sitting there thinking about this, and I wanted to take my son. It's kind of funny, but I wanted to take my son to go get a haircut, and where he went to school at that time, we were over in Council Bluffs, and the closest barber shop at that particular time was all the way over in off of Maple, which is what 65th and Maple in Omaha. So you're talking about easy 40 minutes. Yeah, and we're not even talking about rush hour traffic. Well, well, never mind. I wouldn't say 40. Rush hour traffic, you're looking about 40, maybe to an hour, somewhere around there.
Can I throw something in real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
So for the audience that may not be aware of this, as Black men, we have to find a barber that can cut Black folks' hair.
Yes.
And so we can't just go to any barber.
We won't just go to any barber.
Right.
We won't just go. It's not that we can't. We won't. We're choosing not to.
Yeah.
But thank you, sir, for that iteration. Yeah. Thank you. So I wanted to take my son to a barber shop that I deemed appropriate. Mm-hmm. And so he got out of school. He would get out of school at 3:45. And again, I have to make it all the way. And again, we're talking about Council Bluffs. I got to make it all the way over to Omaha during rush hour, which I guess wasn't too bad, but whatever. So anyway, I tell the principal that I'm going to pull him out to take him to go get his haircut. Mm-hmm. And his principal says to me, he says, while the kids are in school, they need to be there for 100% of the learning, all of it. And I'm like, what? I'm like, he's here for 7 hours a day. You're trying to tell me that everything that you're doing for every second, for every minute, he has to be here for that 7 hours for 5 days a week? I'm like, that's 35 hours,
right?
Like a week of learning per week. Like, and I totally, I get that, right? And I'm like, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense, because when these kids got out of school, they're just as dumb as shit. So what are you talking about? Reading, writing, and arithmetic is honestly all I need you to do for my child, is to teach him that. The rest of this, that's my job to do, right? And again, it's not like I'm trying to be disrespectful, because I am not. But you're not going to persuade me to thinking that these kids are in school for 35 hours a week, and they have to be there for all of that learning. Because if that's the case, then there would be no out of school suspensions. That wouldn't exist. There wouldn't be kids going to school for half day if that were the case. So technically, these kids can go to school for just a few hours a day and still make it in society. No, it's just like most books. You write a book and you have to put a bunch of fluffer in there for them to feel validated to spend 20 or 30 bucks on that book. You know what I mean? And that's literally what that is. So, and I tell you, he said, well, if you do that, there's a potential that we would have to, get some school counselor, then they get the law involved in this and the other. I looked him in his face and I told him, sir, respectfully speaking, I have lawyers too. And my lawyers are bored, and I'm getting tired of paying them a retainer to do nothing. So for me to send them your way, I'd have no problem doing that. So anytime you guys need to settle up, please, oh my God, let me know. like, and again, I think that sometimes what happens is that people in certain positions think that, well, because I have this white coat on, because I have this PhD, because I have this, because I have that, you're going to have to respect my authority. Well,
Mhm.
this ain't South Park and I ain't Cartman. So we about to have a problem, my guy.
Right.
So, and again, I'm not trying to go there by any means, but this is my kid who's in school all the time or
Mhm.
whatever. And then when we go home, we're sitting down, we're reading. I love to read. So why would I
Right.
not read with my kid?
Right.
Like, there was times when he was in early in the elementary, we would do homework from the time he got home for like 2-3 hours a night, just working
Right.
on this, working on that. When he got into junior high, which is he's in now, I told his teachers from the beginning, like, listen,
Mhm.
he's already there for 7 hours a day.
Right.
7. I, when he comes home, he shows me his assignments, this and the other. He gets 15 minutes to 20, excuse me, he gets 15 to 30 minutes to handle his homework. That's it. Any other time, you need to go out and go play. You are a kid. We're not doing that. And I told all the teachers that, like, no, we're not doing all that. If you want to send stuff home, wonderful. He gets 15 to 30 minutes to get it done because he's at your school for 7 hours. 7. You can't tell me. And again, like this one teacher said, if it takes these kids 100 hours to learn reading, writing, and arithmetic, no. And here's the other thing. I love my kid being home. Like, I love it when he's at home. I work from home,
Mhm.
so I don't need that. I don't need the school to basically watch my son like it's a daycare center.
Right.
Now, again, I know that there's other parents who can't do that, and I feel for you. And again, this is what this trial and error thing is for us to help you get on that track. If you
Right.
want to work from home, shit, we can help you do that. That's what we do, right? But if you don't want to work from home, I don't know what to tell you, but that's what we would do. Like in
Right.
general, like I personally cannot, I can't stand somebody telling me what I can and cannot do at 46 years old, bro. We got a problem, my guy. And again, I'm not going to be disrespectful by any means, but again, you threaten me with a lawyer, bro. I got lawyers too. Like, what, you think you the only one who got one?
Mhm.
Bitch, please. Man,
Well,
no, we're not doing that. No,
well, and the thing
no.
is, everybody has. It's something. One of my coworkers told me a long time ago. Every man has their kingdom, and that's the realm that they feel powerful in and be able to dictate stuff in. It's bizarre.
Right.
It's bizarre to me that um, if I call and say, "Hey, I need to pull my kid out. We got an appointment." That's really all that it should take.
That's
Because
it.
you trust me as a parent. You trust my decision making as a parent to determine what appointment is appropriate to miss
Right.
class instruction for and stuff like that. That's how we do things. You don't get to arbitrarily dictate what that looks like, um, because it's an individualized thing.
Yeah.
If there's a class my kid is struggling in, I try to schedule stuff so that it doesn't interfere with that in-class instruction piece of it. But
That
you
part.
don't get to dictate what, where, and when I do that. That's crazy to me. Um, you know, I'm wrapping my mind around it. One thing,
Mm-hmm.
one thing I want to go back to is you were talking about that entire concept of the trial and error thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of came across a quote, and I'm absolutely butchering it, but I just saw it this morning. Um, a lot of times, um, opportunity, when you first encounter an opportunity, it looks like risk.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get hung up in that aspect of wanting to be perfect in their execution. And so they don't want to try it and fail at it. Here's the thing: for a heart surgeon, that's, you don't want to just get in there and start freestyling. Like, you don't want to just get in there and start making
Right.
shit up as you go along.
Right.
If you're a
There
heart
you go.
surgeon, you
There you
want
go.
enough
There you go.
practice to go ahead and execute it the way that you know it's supposed to be executed. You also want to make up stuff on the fly.
No, not at all.
But for a business venture, if you're just getting started, you want to go ahead and get that failure on your skin so that you know what it feels like, so that you can acclimate yourself to what getting your fingers dirty looks like in that application. And so I think a
Hmm.
lot of people stall out on that trial side because they don't want to fail immediately. And you're not in a position where the burden of success is that heavy on you. You just need to
No,
learn this thing
yeah,
in order to
that's
do
it.
it.
That's it. And so again, so what I would suggest people do in general is that whenever you start something, or if you want to start something, listen, I will put your pajamas on, or go to go to proverbially go to Goodwill or Salvation Army, go grab some scrubs and just dig in there. Go have some fun for a while,
Right.
because you're gonna mess up. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Nothing. Matter of fact, if you ask me, like, listen, like, and I tell people, if they listen to me, I'll tell them, listen, I went from making, like, what was it? I think it was like $2,500 a month, for years, and I damn near had two jobs, like literally, to making like $20,000 a month
Mhm.
within a 5-year period. So again, you don't have to listen to anything I say. Matter of fact, I'm not gonna lie to you. I would hope that you didn't. Because
Mhm.
I don't mind people working at McDonald's. I don't mind people working at Wendy's. I need somebody to wash my car because I don't want to do it. And I'm not saying that to be a braggart by any means, but everybody got their own lane. I chose a different lane. And oddly enough, and I'll tell people this, the reason why I chose this lane is because I didn't want somebody telling me what I could and could not do with my kid.
Right.
Period. Like that was it. Everybody got their why. That's my why. I can't let somebody else tell me how to raise my son. Period. And I think that when you work for somebody else, when you work at certain jobs, they tell you how much money you make. They tell you where you live. They tell you what type of job you can, what type of car you can drive, what type of apartment or house you can afford, where you eat at, what you do, how much you can save, when you can go shopping, if you can go shopping. Man, listen, life, man, you got one life. Man, fuck this. You got one life. That's it. One. Like, I'm trying to live my life the best way that I possibly can. And I'm not saying that I'm just throwing this balls to the walls, let whatever happen, happen. I don't work that way. And I don't live like that. That's being extremely crash. And
Mhm.
I don't want to live like that at all, or whatever. So I would suggest anybody to just try. And again, like, if you need help, we will help you.
Right.
I mean, like, I'm not saying that I'll get out there and go do it for free, but shit, I mean, dude, it's better than sitting there living a quiet life of desperation, knowing that you're depressed, knowing that you have anxiety, knowing that you have this great idea that you've had for years and you do nothing with it.
Mhm.
And the sad thing is that, here's the thing. If you're not where you want to be at this present moment of time, cool. It is what it is. But here's the thing. If you're at least doing something to push yourself in that position, that's one thing. But if you ain't doing nothing, bitch, you gonna die anyway. Why? I mean, I would rather die with saying sorry, man. Hey, I tried it, it didn't work, than die knowing that I didn't even give it a chance. Like, let
Right.
me ask you, do you know how many people died every month last month? No, not last month, last year. 2000, excuse me, no, let's go another year. So 2023, 2024, it was not, it was 8,990 people died every single day, daily.
Mhm.
And that's just in the US. In the US, we have about 300 and anywhere from 320, 360 million people living here, but 8,990 people died every day last year. And that usually seems to be about the average.
Mhm.
Anywhere between 7,000 and 8,000 people die every 24 hours. That's 300 and I think 54 people. I'm maybe off a number or two.
Mhm.
300 and some odd people per minute. Per minute. No, I think it's either per minute or per hour. One of the two. But either way, one day your name, your number is going to be amongst that number. Like, you know what I'm saying? And think about the people who have all these gifts that God gave them and they do dick with it. Nothing. You know, sitting there waiting for somebody else to come do for him or some Jesus to come out the sky and save your goofy ass. He ain't coming. I'm here.
Mm.
Now what? Let's get to work.
Yeah.
All right. You ain't sitting around waiting for this, man. Or you can start working. Or what I tell my son, keep your hand up, ask for help. Like, this is what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to help. Like, you know, and even then I'm kind of going off on this tangent, but even if you think about the story of Christ, for instance, Jesus himself couldn't get his message out. He himself didn't have big enough voice to get that message out. Other people around him had to get it out. He didn't get that message out to people. Other people got that message out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So again, none of us makes it alone. Like, none of us. And to think that you have a dream, a goal, an aspiration, a problem, you think that you're the only one who got it, that's bullshit. That's that ego talking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I look at it, homie. But I agree with you. Risk. Be willing to risk it. Put it out there. Like that. That's what we're here for.
Well, and I think a lot of times people are actually sitting around waiting for permission
Mm,
from some
that's a great
external
one. Thank you.
person or entity before they actually start pursuing stuff. And so, and it's a natural human thing. Like, like, we all need sounding boards. I bounce ideas off my wife, my friends, and all
Yes.
that other stuff. But when you get hung up or you feel like you need their permission or blessing to move ahead with your idea or your vision of what you want the world to be, you are setting yourself up to always be stuck in that place. You're always setting
Yeah.
yourself up to exist in that, what was it, what Peter Senge called creative tension, where
Mm,
it's the space between the world that you're in versus the world that you want to be in.
okay.
And so, and that's not a place that I don't want to live in that spot. And so I take those level of risks. I go out and do stuff and try stuff just so that I don't leave it on the table. The one thing that's
Mhm.
always eluded me is writing the book. And so I bought the software, I got my outlines and stuff, and that's gonna happen. That's what I'm working on. But a lot of times people are sitting around waiting for permission from some external thing. It's validation. They're looking for the validation to move ahead with the idea that they have in their head, as opposed to just going out and laying the first brick and taking the first step, taking the first course, you know,
Mhm.
Googling the first thing, taking the first step to make this thing a reality. And that's not a
Okay.
space I would want to live in. I wouldn't want to exist in that space forever where I'm looking for permission to move ahead with something I have in my mind. And
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of people who have these big things get caught up in it. A lot of people that want to have the big YouTube career, they're scared to turn on the camera and talk to
Right.
you. Last night, my nephew, godson slash godson, he's been talking to me for years, and he's I think 10 or 11. He's been talking to me years about starting this YouTube channel, and I was talking to my wife about it, and she's like, why don't you just take his phone, ask to use his phone, and record him talking to show him what you mean. And so we did that a couple of days ago. And so he comes up to me last night. He's talking about, like, I haven't started yet, but I know what I'm going to talk about. So last night I'm shooting an event. He walks up to me. I hand him my camera and let him and tell him what to do and start shooting, so I can get the repetitions of shooting so that he can take a step
Right.
closer to where he wants to be. Because all he has to do is set up
Mhm.
the camera and talk to it. But sometimes that first step feels like a marathon. It feels like a mile.
Right.
So, and he's still young and stuff like that. He's still in that permission seeking phase. But there are people that are my age and your age that never escape that. They always feel like they got to get permission from somebody else to go off and be successful or go off and be unsuccessful. So
Right.
that's my soapbox right there.
Well, no, and I agree with you 100%. I think that we we've been bred like that in general. I mean, think about it, going to school for 7 hours a day for, for 35 hours a week times, times four, times however many years that you're in school for. That's what they bred you for. You can't go to the bathroom unless you ask for permission. You have to have a hall pass to go to the restroom. You have to wait for the bell rings to go do this. You have to get permission to go do that or whatever. So we live in this very permissionable type of society in general. You can't do this until somebody else tells you. You can't do that until you get permission. You can't do this because it's against the law. You know what I mean? There's
Mhm,
so many different things that we have here that garner that so-called proverbial freedom
mhm,
that we all claim that we want, right? And and I think that even with something like that, and I think that personally, I think that that's the reason why it's important. It's imperative to have coaches. It's imperative to have a community of people around you that kind of see things not necessarily as you do, but
mhm,
kind of want the same things in life as you want. And not only that though, but have this this I don't want to say this altruistic type of point of view, but this collectiveness of we make it together
mhm.
type of cohesiveness. Because I think that when you have that, it makes success so much funner and it makes it a lot easier to cope with and to deal with. Because again, I think that success for a lot of people is one of those things that's really scary too. You think about all the places that you want to go, all the things you want to do, all the things you want to buy
Mhm.
and all that stuff. And that I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. That shit gets overwhelming. I know that when I got my first $15,000 this and 20,000 here and this and the other, man, the things that I was buying was crazy.
Right.
But the one thing that I noticed was that however you are when you're broke is how you are when you got money.
Mhm.
So if you're a giving person when you're broke, if you like to read a lot, whatever you did when you were broke is it's money's just gonna enhance what you already are.
Right.
So if you're a good guy, if you're a giving person, you're just gonna be a very giving person with a whole lot of money. If you're a piece of shit, you're gonna just be a piece of shit with a whole lot of money.
Right.
If you're a guy who loves to buy cars or whatever, that's what you're gonna do when you get money. If you're a guy like me who loves to read and go shoe shopping and this that, and the other, you're just gonna do a whole lot of that. So, and that's the greatest thing I loved about starting, being broke as hell and then making a crap ton of money. Cause it's like, oh my God, like, nah, I don't want to go back to being broke. I would rather I would rather stay making a buttload of money, even if it wasn't a buttload. Even right now, I'm not rich by any means of the imagination here. Well, I don't know. I guess I would be in like the uh I'd be in like maybe the top 5%
Mhm.
here. I guess like maybe I'd have to look that up or whatever. But I'm not like in the one or nothing like that. But my lifestyle is indicative of what I do. Like I love to read.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'll stay at home and while the kiddos at school and read my books and here's the other thing. I also have a job too.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not like I just do coaching all the time. I don't want to do coaching all the time. Like I work with people with disabilities. Like I've been doing it since I was 19 years old. I love working with these guys. Love it. You know what I'm saying? I have one guy who lives with me. I have a few people that I work with and whatever, and then we're doing this thing right here. And then when I'm not working with them, when my kids out with his friends, whatever, I do a lot of coaching during that times or whatever. So my coaching is obscure, weird hours or whatever. So I'm kind of all over the place. But it's so funny because I make more money just working a couple hours doing coaching than I do with all this other stuff that I got going on.
Right.
But again, whoever you are, when you're broke at school, you're gonna be when you got money too. And
Mhm.
that's all I try to tell people.
Right. A lot of people have this imagination like, oh, when I get up, man, I'm gonna put on all these people and donate all this stuff. And the
If you're
reality
not
is,
doing it, if you're not doing it right now, you're not gonna do it when you
you're not
get
going to
there
do it.
either.
And
You're
that's
not
what
gonna
it
do it
is.
there either. Ain't that crazy though? It's like,
Right.
man, as soon as I get on, I'm gonna do this for this person, I'm gonna do that for that person. I mean, it's like, dude, you can do all that now. You don't have to wait till you get on to go do that. When have you reached out and tried to get that person put on at this present moment
Right.
when you have nothing, when nobody's heard of that individual? Or how many people have you tried to give a shout out to right now? I keep people. Even when I would go out to like dinner or whatever, I would always tip big.
Hmm.
Like there's this guy over at Olive Garden. Like my clients, they love going there. I usually ask for the guy's table because he's really awesome. If he sees me out anywhere, he'll know my name and the last thing then and what I tip him. Because like I'm the first person to actually tip the guy like
Hmm.
100% of my bill. You know what I'm saying? Like seriously. So I mean it happens like that though. But yeah, so like I said, man, however you are, when you're broke or when you're destitute or whatever, is how you gonna be when you're up too.
Right. And a lot of people don't really understand that. And it doesn't just go
No.
with, it doesn't just go with giving money or anything like that. We're talking about the habits that you have when you don't have anything are going to be the habits that you have when you do have things. And a
Yeah.
lot of times people think that the money is going to alter them in some major way. And it goes back into what we talked about, that fear of money, you know, that money's going to turn me into somebody that I don't know. Well, you are already that person. The money's just enhancing who you are.
That's it.
And so that's where you have to sit down and have that long conversation with yourself and look in the mirror like, who am I really and who do I want to be? Because if
Mhm.
the money has made me into this person, then this is who I always was. And so
Yeah.
I need to figure out, if I don't like who I see in the mirror, I need to figure out how to alter that person so that I can look myself in the mirror and not feel that overwhelming guilt. And I think a lot of
Mhm.
people don't do that. They don't sit down and take that earnest look at themselves. They don't take that stock of themselves, and then they blame the money or success for turning them into something that they're not. And that's who they always were,
Yeah.
you
They
know?
just didn't have the opportunity to show you.
Right. And so if you were a monster, if you were a rich monster, you're a rich monster and doing all this inhumane stuff, you was probably a poor monster. You just didn't have the
Mhm.
resources to be who you really wanted to be. It's,
Right.
and so I think for a lot of people, that fear that if I aim big and get the money, it's gonna change me overnight. It doesn't work like that. It just brings out what you already have within you. So if you're scared about that, then you need to alter the person that you are and alter the things that motivate you and figure out what person you have to like the person. You have to end up wanting to like the person that's in the mirror. And if you don't like
Right.
the person that's in the mirror now when you don't have money, you're not going to like the person that you are in the mirror when you do have money. That's the misnomer.
Mhm.
And so he started getting around and the money made him into a monster. No, he was already a monster. He just has the more resources to mess with people. That's how I
Yeah,
feel.
that's literally it.
So
That's all it is. And I mean, again, that's why I strongly suggest to people again, man. It's so funny when people I hear people talking about, man, I'm a boss, I'm this, I'm that, the other. It's like that's cool. So my next question, and even with some of the clients that I've worked with, they'll come on and we'll talk about, that how they're a boss in this, they're a boss in that, and that's what's up. Cool. I'm sure that you are. Um, but the one question that I consistently ask is so as a boss, do you manage or do you lead? And not only do you manage and do you lead, but where are you leading your people to?
Mhm.
And why is it that I don't know anybody else in your team? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just saying, like, well, you know what I mean? Like like one of my employees, she tells me all the time, like, man, I'm so thankful to know you, not just to work for you, but to know you. And I'm like, why? She's like, dude, because like whenever I'm around you, like you make me feel like I can do anything. Like, one of the things that I tell her is that, man, I need you to start stepping your skills up
Mhm.
because I don't necessarily see you in this particular um I don't see you in this space. I see you moving beyond where we are at this present moment in time. So I need you to learn, start learning this, that, and the other, and I need you to learn that on your time
Mhm.
or whatever, right? Because I need to see how serious you are about this stuff. So when I promote you to this other stuff, you already know what you're doing or whatever, right? And so
Right.
we have to, and that's a big thing, bro. Like building people up. How many people do you have on your team? Right. So like if you look at what's homeboy's name? Mace. Remember
Mhm.
Mace back in the day
Yeah.
when he quit rapping, right? The biggest problem that people had with him is that they said, who did you get to replace you? Who did you get out of your team to come up? You know what I'm saying? Like if you look at Ludacris, for instance, you had Chingy, you had Shauna, you had I-20, Titty Boy, which is now Two Chains.
Yeah.
Now I think you had maybe one more dude or whatever like that, right? But I just named you four or five different people from that guy's clique that he brought up with him, right? You know about Young Buck, you know about Lloyd, you know about what's the other one? Tony Yayo or whatever,
Yeah.
right? From G Unit, right? You know about them because 50 pushed them up as well. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So again, and there's certain people, and again, like I said, you could tell people, and I'm not saying that these dudes are cool guys. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that. I'm just saying you know who they are because at some point, Ludacris, 50, or whomever pushed these guys out into the limelight. You know what I mean?
Right.
They was on their records. They did this and the other. So from when my employee talks to me about certain things or whatever, I'm always trying to big her up. And you know who I'm talking about because she's been
Right.
to several of our meetings or whatever, right? And again, this is somebody that's there's no inappropriate conversations, there's no inappropriate this, that, or the other. I literally want to see her do well. And she's a younger Latina woman, so I really want to make sure that we try to big her up and her culture up and this, that, and the other, because there's not really a lot of space for them to be to do what they're doing, at least not what we got going on outside of that. So I'm talking to her about making sure that she learns those skills so that one day she doesn't need me or
Right.
anybody for that matter, that she can rely on herself and her abilities and her culture and her community to big her up. You know what I mean? So to me, when you're working for somebody else, it's a difference between working with somebody else. And I tell people all the time, I don't want you working for. There's some people that are going to work for me. I
Right.
got people that are going to work for me. I, that's gonna be that what that is.
Right.
Everybody else, I'd rather you work with me because my objective is to see you go so that you don't need me anymore.
Right.
Period. Like I don't. Again, like I said, there's gonna be some people that's just no matter what, they just gonna ride with your boy, no matter what car I'm in, they come into, and that's fine. But I'd rather some people go get in your own car. How can I help you get you a car? Do I need to help you learn how to drive? Number one,
Right.
you know what I'm saying. Do I need to help you get your license first, and then push you out or whatever? So I think that with with my leadership, that's what I bring to the table is that even when people mess up, kind of like you talked about before, I'm not going to put you in a situation that you're going to always succeed. I'm
Right.
going to put you in a situation that you're not going to do well. And I need you not to do well because I need to see how you react when you don't do well. You know what I'm saying? When I used to work with my clients or whatever, when I was working at group homes, and they would always put me in with the most violent people. Oh my gosh. And I never had any issues with them because I always treated them with a higher respect than I would anybody else. My expectations
Right.
for these individuals were way higher than somebody else's. So I didn't have the same blowback or responses that everybody else would get. But they would always say, Fearless, I'm doing good. I'm being good. And I would always tell them, I don't want you to be good. I want you to be you.
Right.
Because I can't help you if you're not being yourself. I need you to be yourself so I can help you to get over certain things, whatever. But if you're just telling me that you're being good, just to be good, that's not helping me because then you're gonna be a terror to everybody else.
Right.
So you know what I mean. So that's kind of one of the biggest things that we kind of went into. But yeah, no, I
Well,
see what you mean on that though.
so one of the things I used to with my staff, I always said I pride myself on how much, like I was like, I'm never gonna hold you back. Like if I'm working with you, I'm never if I'm managing you, I'm never gonna hold you back. If other
Mm,
hiring managers want to hire you, that's a feather in my cap. I want
yes,
I want you to move
yes,
up. And so
yes.
when you're talking about Mace, I was kind of thinking about LeBron. And people have their opinions about LeBron James and whatnot, and they talk about his circle. But one thing you can't say is LeBron doesn't elevate his people, because
Mm,
he's elevated his childhood friends to be some of the most powerful people in the industries that they're in. Rich Paul. Rich Paul is he's one of LeBron's main aces, but he's one of the guys, one of the power guys in the NBA with the big name contracts and negotiating and basically having the power to leverage entire teams with his client base. And so
mm,
one of the biggest agents is Rich Paul. And so he's one of the most powerful agents in sports in the world. And the Clutch Sports Group is branching out into other stuff, and they're managing other kinds of talent, actors and stuff like that. But he put Rich Paul on.
I
Mav,
don't know. I don't. So not to interrupt you, bro, but I don't know basketball like that. I really don't. Or whatever. So can you explain to us greenhorns and novices or whatever that are a little wet behind the ears? Who is Rich Paul in general? Is he an athlete?
no, Rich Paul was a hooper, but he's not. That's not what he is. He was one of LeBron's friends growing up. And
Okay.
so he's one of the biggest agents in the NBA right now, and has been for a while. He's the one that negotiates the deals that a lot of these ball players take with the clubs that they sign on to. And then he gets a percentage of the negotiated deals. But agents also will negotiate like the big endorsement deals and stuff like that. And so
Hmm.
he's the guy that athletes turn to when they want to get as much money as humanly possible for their skills on the court, or even their skills being able to promote products and stuff. And so, I've seen the clips of Rich. Rich can shoot and Rich has basketball skills, but that's not what he does right now. His big power play is he is one of the guys in the NBA. And if you want, if you're working with him, you got to come through him. If you're working with some of these teams, you got to come through him to get players signed and stuff, And so
Oh
he's the
wow.
guy. The
Okay.
other one to talk about is Maverick Carter, friend, business partner. He's the CEO of the Spring Hill Company, which is also a Spring Hill Entertainment. He produces TV shows and movies and documentaries and everything, and he's becoming a power player in Hollywood. And when
Mm,
LeBron pivots into the entertainment and production side more, that's the company that they're going to use. So, Randy Mims, he handles a lot of LeBron's business affairs and managing his off-court career. So there's a lot of guys that he's elevated that were close to him growing up, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna make sure you get the education that you need to be successful, to look after my interests. But in the process, you end up becoming an asset to other people who are going to pay you to look after their interests as well.
okay.
That's a power move right there, because now he has um a group of people that are immensely talented that he's known for most of his life.
Mm.
And he has that a level of trust with them to make sure that they never put him in a bad position. He's
Mm.
always in the optimal position to do the things that he wants to do. And he doesn't have to go outside of the camp to get things done. And a lot of
I
times,
like that. I
a,
like that.
a lot of times, with some of these young athletes and stuff, when they start going and start venturing in, and it's starting to get younger and younger. So, um, I just a friend of mine put us on to the fact that you have kids that are in high school that are playing basketball on shoe circuit teams, and they're negotiating deals with them for $60,000 and $70,000. High schoolers.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, so these kids are getting paid to be on this specific team that plays on, because there's a thing called the shoe circuit, and it's basically the big name shoe companies have
Oh,
basketball
okay.
circuits that feature the best talent in the country. There are kids that are getting paid deals to be on specific teams. So 60, if you hoop on this team, it's $60,000, and they're negotiating
So
those
like
deals.
Nike, Adidas, Jordan, stuff like that. Okay.
Nike, Adidas. I don't know if I think Adidas is still going on. Puma, New Balance. The shoe companies
Yeah.
have their own basketball circuits.
It's so funny. I just bought my son a pair of they're bright. I'm gonna have to take a picture of them and send it to you. I just bought him 100. They were $130 some dollars, which the price I could care less.
Right.
Bro, they are the ugliest shoe. They are bright and loud but they're basketball shoe. And I'm thinking that it's some type of Nike, Puma.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? For this? But he wanted it, so that's fine. Who knew?
Right.
Who knew?
So now these kids are getting younger and younger. And with the money floating around at the younger ages, there's going to be people that put themselves in those positions to try to negotiate the deal so they can skim something off. A couple of years ago, I think it was Zion Williamson. He plays for the Pelicans now. There was some lady when he was playing at Duke that kind of got him to sign this contract with her to represent him and represent his interests and everything. And she thought that she would be able to sign this child to a contract and then be able to take his money in perpetuity. And there was a big court case about that. And she was just looking to get paid. So she wanted a piece of his Nike deal and his Pelicans contract and any other contracts he signed. It was basically a 360 deal. She wanted some of everything that he had signed. And so he had to go to court to fight that. I'm saying all that to say this. The power of what LeBron's doing is he has all that stuff in house. And these guys
he keeps everything within that. I got that. He has a whole ecosystem that where the money comes in and it stays in.
Right. And these kids don't have that benefit. They have agents that connect themselves to these families to get the money. These people may or may not have the best interests of the families in mind. And since the family doesn't have anybody that is necessarily versed and has their best interests in mind, a lot of times that money, like you get somebody's like, hey, if your kid plays on this team, we'll pay him $70,000. If that's double what you make in a year, you're going to be like, oh, I got to take this. Not knowing that by signing that, you've signed some deal that basically ties you to this person where they're going to skim off this kid's money no matter where they go. And so,
wow.
And so that's the benefit of building that team internally. That's what I'm saying. Building the team internally, building the internal support system. And it's not, because Hammer blew an entire fortune putting on people who aren't necessarily qualified, and he didn't necessarily pay for them to be qualified in the roles that he had them occupying. LeBron paid money and invested money and time to make sure that these guys are immensely qualified in the things that they're doing for him.
Right. But again, I think that even in with the Hammer thing or whatever, if I'm not mistaken, like, I think that the biggest thing with him was it wasn't the fact that he had people like mismanaging his money. I think I think that the concerts in which he was throwing
Mm-hmm.
were so huge, were so grandiose that what he was paying everybody in general, bro, even if you had 1/4 of what you kept up there,
Yeah.
he'd have kept most of that money. Because again, he have damn near 100 people on stage dancing.
Right.
Well, if you doing that every single night and you paying each one of them a couple $1,000, bro, I don't care how much money you got coming in. If you don't have more money coming in than what's going out, you're gonna blow it.
Let me ask you this question though:
Go ahead, give it to me.
who's the person that Hammer paid to tell him that?
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it his brother?
But who would have had that conversation with him and said, "Hey, bro, this is what your books are.
Your accountant. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what your books are. This is
Right,
what
but I mean,
this is what your algo
dude,
is." And so that's
right.
what I'm talking about. Having that person in your team, sometimes even have that person in your team that has the ability and wherewithal to check you and saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, man, what are you doing here?" And so that's what I'm saying. Having that internal team is really important, not just a group of enablers. Because I look at like what's going on with Ye.
Group of enablers.
Yeah, I'm looking at what's going on with Ye, and I feel for Ye to a
Yeah,
degree
yeah,
because he
yeah.
surrounded himself with yes men and enablers and isolated himself from the people that said, "Hey, bro, what are you doing? What do you
Right.
what do you you're a paid your $1 billion is based on being a paid spokesman. If you destroy that, you ain't gonna have $1 billion no more."
No.
But he had all the people like, "Yeah, yeah, this is what you needed to be doing," because he's getting that check from them, but they don't know him well enough and he doesn't have that connection with them well enough to where they could pull him aside and say, "Hey," and he listens to him. That's all I'm saying. And so it's not necessarily a sign of blame on what Hammer is doing, but it's like you do have to have that person that you know well enough where you know that they're looking out for your best interest and they will, if they don't stop you, at least they're going to put it out there so that you have a grain, a germ of something to think about.
Right. No, no. I feel you on that. No,
So,
I mean that makes perfect sense, though, man. That makes perfect sense. I mean, yeah, you have to have some. You have to keep some type of accountability around you. Because I
right,
mean, dude, if you don't, then what do you have?
right,
You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta have that. And even when, like we talked about before with this whole thing of our trial and error thing, I mean, that's a huge part of it as well. Is not only that accountability part, but you gotta have some people around you that hold you accountable.
right.
And so if you say, like, matter of fact, because I mean, even with you, I'm gonna get in on you right quick, like not in a negative way by no means, whatever, but in a coaching way.
Mhm,
You said something that sparked my interest. I'm gonna have to call you on that.
mhm,
You said that you've been thinking about and wanting to do a book for however long
mhm.
or whatever, and you've been kind of just sitting on that. So we about to go ahead and coach you right quick. So what? So how long have you been wanting to do this, man? Let's get into it.
Well, I've been writing in my downtime for over 20 years. It's just
Okay.
more or less like blog posts or short stories and stuff like that. Um,
Okay.
the biggest hurdle right now, because initially it's lack of focus. Because one, I wanted to write a book with my daughter, and so I
Okay.
wrote my chapters and stuff. It's been waiting for her to write hers, and now and coaching her through not feeling like she's a better writer than I am, but she doesn't believe it. And so getting her to make her stuff. But for me, it's what story do I like? I write these short stories. Which one do I actually want to spin out into a book? And that's been the hang up. It's figuring out which of these things that I've created do I want to world build on and actually build into an actual story.
Man, was you? So how many of these stories do you have?
um a lot. I have a lot of ones that I've started and either ran out of steam on or they just stayed as short stories. They didn't the narrative didn't really continue on to the short story piece of it. And
Hmm.
that's the piece I need to actually bear. That's the piece I got to bear down on and saying, listen, even if it's not optimal, And that's the part I probably need the coaching on. Even if it's not optimal, it's not perfect, I got to roll this thing and see where it goes.
So there's this author because as we know I read a lot all the time. Let me hold on one second. So there is a movie called Arrival.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, it has. If you can put that, can you put that on our screen, please, so people can
Yep.
see what I'm talking about?
I was looking for it on my phone like a dummy
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
no,
can't show.
yeah. We can put that up because I want people to see what I'm talking about before I go into this.
The
Because
Rival.
it's just called Arrival.
Arrival.
Yeah, it's Arrival. Arrival. Arrival.
And it's a novel.
No, it's a movie. It's a movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember the movie. Yep.
Yeah,
Because that dude who played Hawkeye in it.
yeah. So there's a couple heavy hitters in there. There's Jeremy Renner. There's Amy Adams, and then there's Forrest Whitaker in this movie. I want you to put it up so people can see it.
I'm pulling it up now.
Okay.
Hold on a second. I gotta share screen. Share screen. There it is. Yep.
Okay. Hold on one second. Hold on one sec. I created the movie. Okay, hold on. Where is he at? Okay, so there is a a science fiction novelist. His name is Ted Chiang,
Okay.
or whatever. That's who basically created this movie. That's what this movie was based off of that particular book. But within this book, there were a bunch of short stories. This movie came from one of his short stories. When I read the book, I did not know that he was the author of this movie. This is one of my favorite movies. And so as I'm reading the book, I'm like, man, this sounds just like the movie, one of my favorite movies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in, I look at it and I look it up and I'm like, wow, they took the premise of this story, a very short story,
Mm-hmm.
and they made a movie out of it. So what I would suggest to you is to put those short stories out in full, all of them. You don't need to pick and choose, bro. You once they're out, you can pick and choose what you want to do from there, or let the audience pick it for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Somebody else read this man's book and said, "Hey, I would like to turn this into a screenplay and possibly turn it into a movie because it's amazing." You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so the premise of the movie was amazing. The premise of his book was the same exact way. Same thing. It was just that the movie was a couple hours long. The pages, I think the pages were only maybe 20 pages, if that. I think 15 or 20 pages. That's it.
Right.
All that dialogue in 15 or 20 pages. But the movie came out with a whole bunch of stuff. So if you have all of these short stories, Brian, I'm just saying, like, bro, stop playing, put them out.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if they're already, you said majority of them are already done, right? You have some that you need to fix,
Yeah.
right? The rest of them, your short stories are already done.
Varying degrees of done. Like
Okay,
I got
very
to do
degrees.
edits and stuff on them and revise, but yeah, they're pretty much done from a writing process.
Okay, so, and how long have you been wanting to do this? About?
I've had the idea like since I was a kid because I was published. I think I had some poetry published and a couple short stories published when I was younger in school,
Okay,
and that
okay,
was the bug that bit me is wanting to be a writer, and
okay.
um And that would be, where they say, what if you had $1 billion and never had to report to work again, what would you do? I'd be doing this and writing full time, and
Sure.
that's where I want to go.
Okay. Cool. So this is what I'm gonna do. Um, because Diane and I, funny enough, we were just talking about this stuff or whatever. She said, Fearless, have you? Because I had told her my whole thing about failing as quickly as possible
Uh-huh.
or whatever, and I, it's not a joke to me. It's very serious to me. And so she says to me, she says, "Have you thought about writing a book on that?" I'm like, "No, not really." I'm like, "I'm sure somebody already got something on it."
Mhm.
She said, "Maybe, but have you thought about writing a book on failing quickly, this and the other, blah blah blah?" But I'm like, "No, not really. I mean, not really my thing." But here's the funny thing though. Everything that you just said just now, I think I'm going to challenge you, sir.
Mhm.
I'm going to challenge you to a friendly debate, not debate, but to a friendly trial and error challenge
Mhm.
that you give me. Matter of fact, no. What is today? Today's the 28th.
Mhm.
Okay, the 20. So I'm gonna give you by the 28th of April to have your book done, all of it. And when I say done, it has to be ready to launch on the 29th.
Okay.
And here's the thing. This is what I'm gonna then this is what I'm going to this is the challenge. I challenge you that I can have a book that I don't even I might just take her idea,
Mhm.
like she asked me to do, create a whole entire framework, all of it, and I'm gonna put it out before you do yours.
Okay. Okay.
No, that's not the thing. That's not what I
Yeah.
mean. I need you to say no, Fearless, because I already got my stuff done. I'm gonna have this done way before you. The 28th is the deadline.
Oh yeah. So
The 28th is the deadline.
I've ghostwritten. Okay, so I've ghostwritten a book for somebody in 30 days. So we could do that. I'm down with that. I'll beat you on that.
Here's the thing. Like I don't think that's gonna happen.
Okay.
Like, and when I say like it has to be done, I'm talking about everything has to be done. I mean, it has to be able to go to print on demand. Hold on, let's write it on demand. So it doesn't. Hold on, the demand. Okay. You can sell it on wherever you want or whatever. So I mean, preferably Amazon, possibly, right?
That's the account I was going to ask because I already have an Amazon publishing account.
Oh, okay. I think I do too because I have a book on there. But this will be like the first time that I actually just kind of create something else, whatever. So I don't know what I'm going to create, but I'm going to have fun um, whooping your ass, sir.
Okay.
Respectfully speaking. And again, I'm pretty sure, sir, that you're going to take the whole 28 days. I am not because
Okay.
I have this other book that I'm reading right now,
Uh-huh.
and I really need to get into that book. So that's why I'm going to beat the hell out of you now,
Hmm.
early, and then it'll be done, and then we're going to go from there.
Last thing though, we got to set the ground rules. Is it fiction or nonfiction? Because we need to determine a genre. Because I could do nonfiction, and I think I could match you on that one. The fiction one takes a little bit longer because that involves more creative energy that I don't necessarily have to allocate towards that. Just because
Sir,
all the
you
other.
can listen, you can make it whatever you want. It don't matter.
I'm talking about, are we both? What I'm saying is, we both need to be writing in the same, like, we need to either commit to fiction or nonfiction. That's the only stipulation I want. So, are
Uh,
you writing a nonfiction?
I mean, we can. I'm gonna write one about failing and failing quickly.
Okay,
That's
so
it. That's all I'm gonna talk about.
that's going to be more nonfiction, right?
Okay, yeah. So yes, sir. We're gonna do non. I'm gonna do nonfiction. You can do fiction. It doesn't matter what you do,
I,
sir.
I
If you wrote a biography about yourself, I would still beat your ass in this.
Okay.
It wouldn't matter what you wrote. And
Okay.
again, it's not about sales. It's about getting it done and getting it out.
Okay.
That's it.
I got you.
Like that's it, sir. So like, are you sure that you want to do this with me?
Yeah.
Because this is trial and error.
Uh-huh. What's the
You know
length?
what I'm saying? Like,
How
huh?
long do you want it? How long do you want it? What's the do we have a minimum length? The minimum length of pages?
You know what? I'll say. What are you thinking?
Um, I'd say if we're looking at something that is easily digestible for somebody, I'd say I don't know, 75, 100, 150.
Okay, how about this? How about we do, yeah, that's fine. I mean, 75 to 100 is good enough. Because I think anything other than that, man, you just wasting time.
Okay,
And wasting other people's time and shit. So just put whatever you need to put in there. So we'll call it at 75 to 100 pages. Boom. And that's what we'll call it at
got you.
that right down there.
Okay, that works for me. So by the 28th, ready to go on the 29th.
Yeah, it has to be ready to be published on the 29th.
Okay, I'm on it.
So I mean, yeah, so I'm just telling you right now, my friend, gloves are off and I'm coming for you, sir.
I'll take it. Hey, hey, I'll accept it. I'll take this. I can do this.
Now I hope so. I hope so because a lot of these challenges are coming for you, sir.
Yeah.
Like again, like we can't just, and the thing that I love about this is that it's one thing to sit around talking about it, it's something totally different to do it.
Oh yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna get on my Facebook and I'm gonna tell everybody exactly the challenge that I'm challenging my guy to
Tag me.
or whatever. So right now, like it's we have to write a book. Yeah, 28 days, 100 pages, nonfiction. You can pick whatever it is that you want to talk about
Okay.
or whatever. But I'm telling you now, gloves off. I'm whooping on you.
Okay. I'm ready.
Like, I'm gonna knock this out very quickly.
Okay.
Are you ready, sir?
Oh yeah, man. Hey, I'm telling you. I promise you. I promise you.
I'm just saying, Mom. I don't know because you've been working on this same one for quite a while. You've been wanting to do this since you was a kid. Now you're a grown man with children. You over here to kind of I don't know, kind of hemming it on. I'm giving you 20. I'm giving you 30 days.
Yeah.
I think you. Are you sure you don't need another? You sure you don't need another 30 days?
Not for nonfiction.
Not for nonfiction. Okay,
No.
I'm just throwing it out. I'm just throwing it out there, man.
Okay.
I'm just throwing it out. You sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I like to hear, man.
I'm ready.
Okay, are you sure?
Yeah. I'm sure.
Positive.
I'm positive.
Say less. So
So
that's what I like to hear, sir. All right. So next, I think that we can conclude our thing for now.
yep.
And yeah, okay. So yeah, so 28 days.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The trial and error guides will have books that will go out. Well, I one of us will have ourselves done
I will
way
have mine
before
done.
that. Well, way before that. But yeah, I'm
All
just
right.
saying. So I mean, yeah. So you ready?
Yeah. The challenge is afoot. And so we'll wrap it up. We'll wrap this up, and then I got a couple of things off air, and then I got to get go, and I got to get to my shoot.
All
So
right, all right. So shut us off, and then we'll continue our conversation and go from there.
all right. So y'all see the challenge? I got 28 days. Fearless got 28 days to write our nonfiction book, 75 pages, 100 pages, anywhere in between there.
75 to 100 doesn't matter. Do you?
Um, and so that's the challenge, y'all. I'm not. Hey, I'm ready for it. So we'll check in. You'll be seeing us before then, but that's what the
Yes,
challenge is on the
yes,
table. So
yes.
thanks for tuning in. I've seen a couple of you pop in. We're gonna chop this thing up and you'll start seeing it in other places. We'll be reconvening again, hopefully on Tuesday, with another live stream of Trial and Error. Talk to y'all later.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Peace.
hopefully, yes, for sure. Anyway, peace. See you.